Right. Good evening, all, or morning or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Children's Mental Health. I'm going to start that again. Children's Mental Health Week, and it's also Time to Talk Day, and also National Cancer Day, I believe so as well. So obviously, I'm going to. Well, there's supposed to be four of us, but only three has turned up. So we're going to describe ourselves as the Three Musketeers. Shaz is the bad one, of course. So. But yeah, I'd like to introduce for the first time ever Jeff Ash from Texas. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good, thanks.
Good. I'm glad to be here with you both.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now, obviously, my first question for you is, what does mental health mean to you?
That's a good question. I mean, health's definitely something that's multifaceted. It's something I talk about all the time with clients that I work with, and when I'm teaching, doing webinars or lives or anything, because it's so important that, you know, as a nutritionist, it's easy for me to think about the food that's going in, but to lose sight of all those other facets of health: the mental, physical, psychological, social, intellectual, all those different areas of health. So for me, definitely mental health is how we kind of bring all of that together and nurture all of those areas. And so being mentally healthy is just kind of, I see that as kind of the core of who we are as human beings, really.
Yeah.
How we think about all those different areas of our life, whether it's physical and how we respond to that, and how we think about different psychologically, how we think about different things that occur in our life, and how we process that, and how we allow it to impact us in our social areas and all of those things.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And secondly, we've got, well, she says she's my auntie on Facebook. She's all the way from Brisbane, Australia. Sharon Chamello, welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
Again. I know you're becoming a regular, aren't you?
Yeah, it's great.
How are you today?
I'm very well. My mental health is quite good this morning, and it hasn't been this week because of a few things that happened and how I reacted to them. So I agree with Jeff. It's a very holistic approach. I was saying to Jeff before the interview that when I saw the panel, I was so thrilled to see a nutritionist on the panel for mental health, because the first thing I do with families is talk about diet and exercise with the kids, you know.
Yeah.
I see every day in schools, I see children's lunch boxes packed full of rubbish, sugar, preservatives, plastic, and then I see their behavior after they eat that stuff, and it is so noticeable. And you know, teachers, we joke with each other and say, oh, what was in his lunchbox? You know, you see it immediately, the effects of what they're eating, you know. So I pray for the day that we have healthy lunch boxes in every school with carrot sticks and celery sticks and apples and, you know, healthy sandwiches and less of this plastic rubbish.
What are your odds on that happening?
Look, it's happening. It's starting to happen. As Jeff would know, there's lots of schools now, lots of states in various countries where, you know, they've got different programs to improve the nutrition in schools. You know, and Jamie Oliver went to the States and tried to help them with their canteen, their lunches, and yeah, there's a movement there. But I think this year, you know, COVID has taken over the rhetoric, and yeah, it's really hard to go back to focusing on some of these important things, especially during COVID. Nutrition is vital for immunity.
Yeah, it is. It's there. There's definitely been a very noticeable impact in a lot of people, both adults and children. We see a lot of people coming in with weight gain that's occurred through this, because usually when you look at the research, when you work with clients specifically in the area of nutrition and health, you find that most of the time when people are struggling with their health in some way or another, the obesity issues and problems that we encounter, most of those things are come from some kind of a disruption. And it's often a mental health related disruption that occurs in the life of either a child or an adult, a trauma that occurs. Whenever you see, with a child, you see a change in their growth curve, whether they, even if they tend to trend on the higher end, no issue, but then you see these spikes or sharp declines at different points, and you can often attribute those to various life events. And COVID is one of those things that we're seeing right now, because you're going from this routine that you have and that you just become so accustomed to, and now it's just it's been turned on end in so many ways. The area that I grew up in, it was an area called the war zone because it was an extremely high crime area, and in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it was a very, very low income area. And so there was a lot of the kids had free lunches at school, and free breakfasts, free lunches. And so many of their meals were that way. And a lot of those kids, those were their meals during the school year, was at school. And then over the weekend, they might get a little bit, but some kids really didn't eat much over the weekend. So now you take that and you can imagine you're suddenly pulled their food supply out from under them, and what happens with that. So.
Exactly. And this is why parents and carers, they say, we know our kids, but question is, do you though? Because obviously, like I shared on LinkedIn, which I know you shared yesterday, Jeff, I think it was, a 10-year-old went to A&E because he self-harmed.
Yeah.
A 10-year-old, because of all what's going on. It's just... It's like between 9 and 15-year-olds, that's the biggest pandemic for self-harming. Yeah,
it's remarkable, and not even just self-harm, but eating disorders have sharply increased during this lockdown. I was reading an article just today. It was in the UK, specifically referring to that area. And they were talking about how eating disorders have quadrupled in some areas among young people, which is just astounding, because it doesn't surprise me, but it's certainly shocking still. In the article, they said some 500,000 children and teenagers and had mental health issues, who had no mental health issues prior to these lockdowns and stuff, are expected to have issues now. Going forward, it's just incredible what something like this can do to us emotionally.
Exactly.
I think though that we say during lockdown, but I think obviously it's so much more than during lockdown, in that, which I know you realize, but it's how the parents react, and what we're showing the kids. Like, if I had kids now, my kids are grown up, but I don't think I would have the television on a lot. Mm-hmm. Hey, Lauren.
Hi, everybody. Sorry.
Hi.
You made it.
Yeah. This is, sorry to interrupt, Shazza, but this is Loren Harris. He is the host of the Bathrobe Moments, which you should really go and have a follow of that. He literally put me under the microscope when I was being interviewed by him, which you can find on that page. I know it was sometime last year.
Stop, you're scaring them.
You are?
And I apologize. We're having a blizzard here in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the internet's been acting kind of screwy for the last hour or so, so I apologize. It's okay now, so glad to be here. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, we was just talking about how here in the UK, a 10-year-old had to go to A&E because they self-harmed, and between 9 and 15-year-old kids, that's the biggest for not just eating disorders, but self-harm as well.
Okay. Well, I'm going to listen for a second and catch up, because I'll start talking about something that's totally erroneous, and everyone will go, what? So I'll just listen for a minute, if that's okay, and catch up. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah. Go on, Shazza. Carry on.
All right. Well, we were just talking Lorraine, about nutrition and some of the problems, some of the eating disorders that are starting to occur, and how the statistics are relating to lockdown. And then I was just saying, it's so much more than just the fact that we're being locked down. It's how the parents choose to react around the kids. And I hate to throw it on the parents, but what we let the kids be exposed to, like how much TV they're watching and how many conversations they're hearing about problems with COVID. When what we could be doing, and my advice to parents, is to be putting good stuff into the bucket. So, the kids are a bucket, they're a vessel, we're filling them with stuff, and then they're going to respond accordingly. So if we can fill the bucket with some mindfulness and some meditation and some games, and not to ignore COVID. They need to know how to deal with COVID, with the hand washing and the distancing, but they also need to have their buckets filled, like all of us, with the positive stuff that's going to help them to be resilient and to cope with all the stress. So that's my soapbox moment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's something that here in the U.S. especially, and we have had quite the year with not only COVID, but with the racial tensions, with the political scene, which has been absolutely disgusting in the way that it's been carried out, over the course of the year. And I know that our kids are picking up on it. Our kids pick up on the smallest little thing. Parents often, you see this with feeding, you see it in any area of life. Parents often overlook and sort of minimize things. Oh, kids are resilient, this kind of thing. But they pick up on everything. They pick up on everything they see us doing and saying and hearing, and attitudes. They pick up on facial expressions and body language. They pick up on what we say when we're watching TV, how we comment on other people's bodies, or politically how we refer to things, and they pick up on that, and then they internalize it, and it's just astounding how much damage that we can do to kids without even doing it intentionally. That's apart from the flagrant abuse that goes on in many households too.
Yeah, it's worse for autistic kids as well. Yeah. Because obviously I know, like, from my kids' last school, my son was being bullied a lot, and it was actually by teachers, because there's just no training there with autism, and he actually turned against them. And we've now come to realize that if my son does not trust someone, it's very highly likely he's not going to change his mind. He's not.
Yeah, even people without autism, that's hard when you don't have a trust relationship. It's very difficult.
Sorry.
Doorbell.
I'll be right back.
I'm sure one of my dogs will bark here at some point.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all right, because I've got guinea pig up right underneath me, and I don't even know what she's doing at the minute. Don't know if she's asleep. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, this is why I have the camera. I literally have it just above her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always done it.
Show me your guinea pig. I want to see it.
We're going off topic now, Jonathan. We're going off topic.
Oh dear. There's my inner child. I want to see the guinea pig. Oh, good.
Maybe another day.
All right.
There, sorry. Amazon.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Got to get them. Yeah.
Well, because the weather's so bad, I don't think they want your packages to sit out. So usually they just drop and go. But yeah. Oh, is there a break right here? Are you guys?
No,
I wanted to say something.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you were talking about COVID and about what, and it was interesting because I had a picture in my mind of the setting that I talked to a lot of kids about and whatnot. And then it dawned on me near the end of your soliloquy that oh wow, she's talking about middle America or middle income families and stuff, because the kids that I have a lot of contact with are primarily inner city kids.
Mhm.
And because I, I have a nonprofit with that, and so I talked to them all. A lot of them follow me, and interestingly enough, for a lot of these kids, what you were describing is what they live, but in reverse, where they're the parent. A lot of them are finding they're very frustrated because their parents aren't being safe. They're not staying quarantined or sheltered in place or whatever the phase may be at the given time. They really speak to the frustration of the entire last year. They never speak just in the moment. It's a culmination of all of it because they bottle it up, but and it's almost like the kids that I hear in the inner city, like, and you hear a lot of mid-America or middle of the road situations, parents about the homeschooling and all that, how, oh, it's so much, but I have kids who have to I know kids that go to school, but also it's like they're homeschooling the mom who has a drug addiction, or it's usually, most of them it's a mom, but there's usually sometimes a boyfriend that squats there, or some family member who doesn't get kicked out. It's always a bunch of people in most of these situations in a small concentrated area. Not a lot of rooms to go to. A lot of us can, if we don't like what's going on in this end of the house, we can go to the other. But I know kids who, even during studying now from home, kids who have to go out into the hallway of their
Yeah.
at the projects because there's no light because mom didn't pay the light bill. She smoked it up in crack or whatever. And so it's a whole different experience you hear from, I think, where the kid is at. And I think they're more frustrated with the lack of responsibility and a lot of the adults they see in that area where they live, because the drug dealers haven't slowed down, the gangs haven't slowed down, the prostitutes are still working, mask or no mask. It's all these things. They see business as usual, and they always were the one who was going somewhere no one else was going, trying to do what no one else wants to do. And so you see what I'm saying? It's a totally different experience. And I think from what I've seen, though, a lot of these kids, because they were so strong, because they've been living it anyway in one way or another, and a lot of people in those comfy zones, the biggest problem I've heard from a lot of people that have been on my show or just in conversation is that, people right here on my own cold set, a lot of people didn't realize they were so uncomfortable with spending quality time, so much of it with themselves.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about mental health, it is children that we're talking about primarily here, but you know what? There's still a child within all of us, or at least I would hope so, an inner child, you see. So, and I know, my story was about 22 moms and all those years in the foster system and whatnot. And there's still every one of those versions. My name wasn't even Lauren then, it was Larry, because it wasn't even the real name. That was the name I was raised because they're hiding me. But anyway, it's a whole nother story. But I know that I have a version of him in me, of all of those little ones with me all the time, from triggers, from traumas when I was a kid, certain things I'll see on a show on television, a certain scent or smell that triggers me back to a certain abuser or time. I'll see someone walking, and I just know that the person is, look how it just feels dark around them, that they feel invisible. And I've walked those in those same shoes. And so you never really, know what I'm saying? I know that's a little bit different than what we're really talking about here, but then not. Because I believe when
mental health.
right,
Mental
if we
health.
and if we understand the inner mental health of all the versions of ourselves, then we can be more empathetic to all the versions of other people, and not think it's, oh, that's what that looks like. I mean, before I became before I went into a headspin of a 14-year drug addiction, if you'd have asked me to sketch a drug addict, I would have had a greasy-haired hippie, probably positioned on some freeway exit or entrance, with a sign out of cardboard and or a syringe hanging out of an arm. That was what I thought. I didn't see it as people down the street. I didn't see it as the manager at my grocery store, the deacon at my church. You see what I'm saying? But that's nonetheless a reality. And so I think it's the same thing with mental health. A lot of people don't realize it's not the big stigma, ooh, scary monster. It can be, but the conversation shouldn't be scary.
Right.
I agree. I agree.
So, Just something.
One of my friends posted this week, it's not about anxiety. It's not about us living without anxiety. It's about anxiety awareness. And I thought that was such a great statement. So, how do we help kids and parents to become aware of anxiety and depression, for example, and then what steps to take to help them? So we're working with kids over here, and no doubt in your countries there are so many programs for kids.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, as Adam often says, getting on the waiting list for some of these programs is so hard.
It is.
So now private coaches and counselors and people like that are becoming very much in demand to actually give people some steps to take to fill that bucket.
Well, and there's no shortage of programs for kids.
Yeah.
There's not. But I'm just going to speak from my own experiences over the last few years. And this event, the Power We Symposium, you know, the first town I went to was the hardest hit one that I kept seeing on the news here in the Chicagoland area on the south side. It was, they were exploiting everything you saw on the news or ever see from that area is a negative. And so I went there first. And long story short, you know, 5.5 months later, I spent more meetings there. I had more phone calls to people there that took a lot more orchestrating logistically to get everything with chaperones. And then their bus, they didn't have a bus for the kids. So we did a fundraiser in 24 hours and rented luxury coaches, and everything was ready to go the day of the event for 111 of their kids. And those kids couldn't come because there weren't no adults showed up to be their chaperones. And they couldn't come without that. I just couldn't. I can't do it by law. And it just broke my heart all day long, going into the back kitchen and seeing 111 chairs, wondering where are these kids? You know, how many will slip through the cracks today because some adult wanted to get their nails done or whatever it was that they thought was more important than following through with their promise to kids. And where this is going that I'm talking about is, like I said initially, there's no shortage of programs for kids, but there are very few programs to show parents and guardians how to communicate. Kids don't want to be talked at, they want to be talked or spoken with. You know, I was fortunate enough to spend a weekend with Lisa Nichols' group out in San Diego, and before I launched my kid program, my teen program, and I watched them do a thing called Igniting the Teen Spirit. And the parents dropped the kids off on a Friday, and they were all in a room. They had a big thing, no windows in the room, because they didn't want kids. They felt that they were creating a safe space where it was eye to eye, heart to heart, knee to knee kind of conversations get down in there, and where everybody was equal. All voices were at the same volume, if you will. Your age or authority, whatever it is, your title, did not hold of the knob in this room. And just like if you were a kid who was troubled, you were a cutter, you were this, you were that, your voice is set at the same volume. The only thing that is different is who will open their mouth and use it and who won't in this room.
Yeah.
And I saw parents on Friday, very cocky, you know, sending a signal between themselves. They had their own language. Oh, you're here with your bad kid too? Or this, you could see it, even though, you know, it wasn't like for a lack of love or anything. I don't mean that. But you could tell they were thinking it was something other than what they were going to find out by Sunday. And on Sunday, when they came back to pick them up, and they spent the whole last half of the day. They didn't just pick them up at the end, go home. They spent like 5 hours with them on Sunday. And the changes that they saw and the way just that these kids were able to express because they've been given permission to, by other people that looked like the people that brought them there. And this was now their space. They created it that way. And then it was the parents. I couldn't believe how many parents were reduced to tears, who stood up and admitted, I had no idea that that I was feeding into that I just didn't see it, blah, blah, blah. And I'll never forget that. And so I always wonder, because when kids reach out to me, they reach out because they want an adult who will listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I put it in the description. Do we actually know our child or children about what's actually in their mind?
No, and most parents think that tossing the kids' room and snooping and flipping mattresses and stuff, finding secret hiding spots and stuff is fulfilling that need. And that's not it at all, because that's never how you're going to get in here or stay in here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to be willing to have those conversations with kids. They want to have those, and it's remarkable how much they'll open up and how much they'll trust you when you show that you genuinely care. Not that just you say, "Hey, how's it going?" but you actually genuinely care what they have to say. You're willing to open up about yourself too, and the struggles that you've gone through yourself in your own life, whether that's with your own kids or with other people's kids. If you're working with kids in some kind of a context as a teacher, a coach, an aunt, an uncle, all of those things, it's truly remarkable what you can get kids to open up about. And I think that's such a big part of mental health. I mean, these are things I deal with clients working with their nutrition, because so much of nutrition really comes down to mental health related kinds of things. Yeah. And so, when you give them the opportunity to express what's going on, then they have that opportunity to verbalize those emotions, to start to deal with them, to start to understand what's going on. They can be validated, all of those things. It's just so important.
Yeah.
Very important.
See, I can actually admit right now, I have been guilty of not fully understanding my son's needs. I can admit that live, because there's been times in space of a day, in an hour, he's told me he loves me, I said, about 200 times. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying, I love you back, and I love you back. And to the point, it did actually get quite a little bit of annoying. But I didn't react to that. But then after doing a little bit of research into that, the reason he's actually doing that, because he wants that practical, that touch, that's what he wants, that physical bond. Yeah. So that's when, and that's the way to stop it, is giving him a hug, even if it's for like 10 seconds. That's the way to stop it. And that's what I've done ever since.
Yeah.
Because it's all about that understanding.
And it's, also, and that's absolutely right, Adam. But, from my own experience, I mean, I say my own, I mean, the child me, when I was in foster care, and I was so blessed that my first caseworker was a woman who was 3 weeks out of college. And I was one of her first 5 people. And I reconnected with her years later as an adult, after years and years of all kinds of things. And it was 3 weeks after she had retired. So it was really interesting, the book ending. And I'll never, I had to find her, because she taught me that I can communicate without words. And there are adults who can hear you and speak to you without words. And what I mean by that was, I remember she goes, well, you and I are going to have a secret language. If you're ever in a place, because some people are actors and actresses, do you know what those are? And I was like, yeah. So I rattling off my favorite actresses. She's like, oh, you really do know, right? So, I mean, come on, I was a little gay boy in the making. Of course I knew. So, so she said to me, if I don't care what an adult tells you or threatens you with, and I'm not doing this to scare you, I'm doing this to empower you. She goes, if anything is ever wrong at all, and you just feel like it's not your fault, or you feel something is not right, you don't even have to have proof of it. I'll always ask you to walk me to my car. Won't you walk a lady? That'll be my cue. Won't you walk a lady to her car? And if anything is wrong, all you have to do is squeeze my hand 2 times. And I'll be back before the sun goes down. Because she knew that there would be those ones watching to see if I gave anything away. I've seen rooms with adults in it turn like a cartoon, where everything comes off the walls and gets put into an attaché case in seconds, and the guy's out the door. I've actually seen houses that flip as soon as they know that the eyes are coming. And you know what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to say, and especially where lots of abuses are going on, lots and lots and lots of abuse. Not just the parents, but their kids and other foster kids, or people that come in that are allowed to. I mean, I've seen it all. And that one thing saved me so many times, and I never had to talk about it. She never said to me, well, what was it? Mm-hmm. She went and did her own investigation. She set them up set them up so that she'd have enough to shut them down. She did so many things. And what she did for me was she taught me that all of my everything in my some words just haven't been invented yet. Arsenal, I'll say, for lack of anything else. All of those things were inside of me. And she didn't need me to say anything. You know, she goes, if you she was the one who really opened the door to what I believe today about was the key for my own sanity. Is I understand now. I was never addicted to drugs, even though it was a 14-year run. I was addicted to abusing the art of invitation, because I invited it in every time, because I invited those words that people tried to play. I invited them to germinate. I didn't invite them to be planted. But you get to a point where, you know, if you know better, you can do better. And like her saying, squeeze my hand, gave me something so I didn't have to keep germinating and pushing seeds that didn't belong in my soil deeper, just to get it out of my way. I don't have to look at it, push it down in the soil when really you're helping it to root.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? She was doing all that with a squeeze, 2 squeezes of a hand.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It really is.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's such an amazing story. And maybe that's something that parents could set up with their own kids, you know, some kind of secret language. Yeah. Like even if it's just you know, something like squeeze my hand if you're feeling really worried about something.
Even those things that people put on doors.
Yeah.
To let you know you can come in now, or don't disturb me, or this is the mood I'm in. I've seen it on refrigerators. Turn the face upside down. You know, people know, uh-oh, the face is turned around. Even that.
Yeah.
Because now, people now, is the most important thing that is missing, and people just don't. They think because we're behind these masks, we can't talk. And so conversation. If we don't have the conversations, everything locks up. That's like a dam. Water starts stagnating the moment it's not moving. Language is a movement. It flows. And when you dam it up, it starts stagnating. Things start dying in it instantly. But as soon as you unblock it, it's back in the flow. Life springs eternal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's why I appreciate what you're doing here, Adam. What all of you do every day.
Yeah.
I have to get something to show you.
Oh, go on then.
It's up here hiding from the dog. So this is what I do, Lauren, with my teenagers and my kids, is we talk about the water and the tennis ball and pushing the feelings down and pushing the feelings down and pushing them down. And then one day they explode. Now the dog has actually helped this one. But it actually did. The tennis ball did split. And my first thought was, oh, I'll throw this tennis ball away and get a new one. And then I thought, no, I'm going to show the kids, you know, if you keep pushing it down in the water, keep pushing those feelings down, eventually it's going to explode. And the problem is it often explodes when you least expect it. You know, so mum says, clean up your room, and you go ballistic because you think everyone at school hates you, and your teacher went off at you today, and this happened and that happened, and you ate too much sugar. Jeff, I did that one for you. You know, and then you explode over clean up your room. And then, as Adam says, mum doesn't understand what's going on inside your head.
No.
So that's why we need to set up, as you said, Lauren, some kind of situation where, like, I love the door one. That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm gonna.
Well, you know, one thing I love about kids, speaking to kids from the stage and whatnot, which is never on the stage because I'm always come down on the floor, but they're unapologetic.
Yeah.
They you can look right at them, and I mean it. I've seen little 5-year-old black girls sitting there chewing their gum with 1,000 barrettes in their hair. You know, they had all those little clickety clack things, and they're just sitting there looking at me like,
oh yeah.
Right. You know, because they've seen someone that looks like me, that's whatever, and I see it, and it's just, you know. But then again, too, sitting right next to her, and this really happened. Another little girl, I told him, now take your biggest dream at the very beginning of the hour, take your kindergartners, 500 kindergartners. Now put your dream in your hand and squeeze it with all your might, right? And then forgot to say, now stop and release. Everybody, I saw everybody else doing it, and at 49 minutes into it, I looked down and there's that little girl right there in the front still doing it.
Oh,
Because see, she
sweat.
still trusts.
Yeah.
She didn't have to peek. Oh, she'd have seen everybody else looking and not doing it. She still trusted. I looked at that and it gave me hope. You know, it gave me hope when you see this on one side and you see the other. And what I guess what my point is with that is I tell kids, my thing is I do it the way God does it with me. And if there was a book about how he does it with me, it'd be called Motivation for Dummies. Because he just gives it to me in pictures. Just so easy. And I'll say to a kid, I've said it to a gym full of kids, listen, feelings are like gas. Better out than in.
Yeah.
And they get it because they say what kid doesn't know a fart joke or plays, you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, because then they go, oh, he speaks our language.
Yeah.
And that's when the kid will come up afterwards and say things to you. And this has happened, you know, when you're talking about your abuse and this, that, and the other. My mom's boyfriend dropped me off here today. And my mom's down south visiting my granny. And he said, when he comes to pick me up, my mom won't be home for 2 more days. We're going to have that kind of a celebration we always have. And then she looked at us because there was a teacher there. And she goes, and I don't want to go back there today. You know, and the thing is, if it hadn't been for somebody that was a mental health warrior, a Jeff Ash in a way, a Sharon, a teen whisperer, a middle school whisperer, whatever it was, but we can all go back to that place where somebody said something or said, here, squeeze my hand twice in their own language that let us know that there's always going to be some way out other than what so many end up doing. You know, but again, back to us as adults, if we can't remember, I can't talk to them unless I can say, I remember that room where you feel like hurting yourself. I can tell you what that carpet feels like. I can tell you what color those walls are in that room. There doesn't even have to be a light on. They look at me and I say, it was scary. It's scary, isn't it? And they'll go, yeah.
See, what you could
That's
do is you can actually change, because I grew up being abused for many, many years, over 20 years. And I screamed. I attempted suicide. I threw darts, even though I had the picture of my abuser on the dartboard. I threw darts. Wasn't working. But then after doing the podcast last year, somebody gave me some advice. I actually attempted it. What you do is you get a piece of paper, blank paper. You write that abuser's name down, or somebody you've had a bit of a dispute with. You write that name down in felt tip. You scrunch that piece of paper up, put it in some water, leave for 5 minutes. You open it up, the name's gone. Just like that. It's gone. And definitely it has a positive impact on your mind. It does.
I can see how that could be.
Yeah.
There are so many great strategies, and that's what I was saying before you arrived, Lauren, that, you know, during COVID, where the kids are getting exposed to so much negativity and so much worry and fear, and especially the kids that you're dealing with, you know, they've got it tenfold, you know. And so what we need to do is see them as a bucket or a vessel and fill them up with the good stuff, you know.
Well, there has to be enough of we.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. And that's the name of my event for kids, the power of we. But that's why I named it that, because everybody always points to we, and their fingers are not even going anywhere near themselves.
Yeah.
How can you say we? If you say we, when people say we and they point, they don't mean it. When people say we and they make an expansive move, they get it. You know, conversation is a stone soup experience. I don't care who you are, where you're from, whatever. Conversation is the great equalizer.
Yeah, having that opportunity to express yourself, to be heard, to have other people pour themselves into you, and when kids are left on their own or to their own devices, then they're missing out on that. I mean, that's one of our great responsibilities as adults, is to invest in the next generation with
Right.
what we've learned, what we've experienced, what we've struggled with.
Right.
And, when we're open about what we've struggled with them, that often gives them a level of comfort to be able to open up again and be able to verbalize what they're experiencing. Because sometimes
Right.
they have a hard time just even verbalizing what they're experiencing. And, I, working as a children's pastor for a number of years, I saw that on so many different occasions, and camp counselors and just, you see these kids coming from all kinds of different environments, and sometimes they don't even know how to express that because they're not allowed to express it at home. In an abusive home, you're not allowed to talk about home, or you get in even bigger trouble. So you put on a face, you put on something, and now,
or it's all someone knows.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't know it's different.
Yeah. And I can,
people.
I can speak from personal experience on that. And I was not abused. I came from probably what you would see as the exact model of what a perfect family home life was. But my first marriage was very abusive. My late wife was very abusive verbally toward myself, toward our daughters. Even it was bad enough what I knew about. It was 10 times worse when I found out what she had been saying to them after the fact. But just seeing the change in them when they were able to express what was going on, and having that freedom to express it, being specifically told, when I told them specifically, I want you to tell me everything that's frustrated you about what I did, what I didn't do, my inactivity, my neglect in many ways. And I want you to express that to me. And I want you to feel comfortable expressing whatever it is about mommy that you want to talk about. And that's up to you, what you feel comfortable with. And it's really freed them a lot, just having that ability. And I think through this, I hope that a lot of kids will come out the other side and have adults that are going to be there willing to listen to them and encourage them to speak up. And I think that's what these mental health awareness type of things, like this particular child mental health week can do, is just sometimes remind us of the importance of these things, and hopefully start conversations like what we're having today. And
That's exactly right. I feel this conversation is just as pertinent, just as important as speaking before Congress on this same subject.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Seriously. And I don't get more excited or less for either side of that. But I'll say this, and I'll say the same thing I said when I was there for this. You know what? When I was a little one, and I got thrown into that system, sucked into that feeder system, which is known as I call it the roulette underworld for children. And most of us did not pack up our Pampers and said, I'm out of here, forward the rest of my toys and my onesies. We didn't get ourselves in there, but we're left to get ourselves out. So it was an adult or two or three or how many played a part in that drama that got every kid inside that foster system. But where are the adults getting them out? Yeah, there's plenty of people helping you maintain. But I didn't say, how many people told me when I first went, it's just a mistake, Lauren, you'll be home in a few days. Like I'm going on, it's a visit. It wasn't a visit. I was relocated in life for the rest of my life.
See, I'm glad you mentioned that, Lauren, because as Sharon knows, I'm actually fighting for my daughter that's actually in the system. Obviously, because I know I can't say too much because it's not going case, because I've been at this for 5 years now, and she's actually in the system because my son's got autism.
Wow.
So that's why I'm fighting. Obviously, the mother doesn't give a crap, but obviously there's me fighting, and I now know that my daughter's gonna grow up where she is because she's being abused where she is. Because I've had it confirmed to me, and nothing's been done for it. Nothing. Right. So I know she's gonna grow up. Right. I know she's gonna see the paperwork that's gonna be handed to her, and she's gonna know there's a dad that's been busting his ass off for her, and she's gonna grow up and she's gonna turn against the authority. She is. But there's also that problematic situation that she's going to grow up and she's going to turn against her own siblings.
Maybe.
And that's something I have to answer to her. Do I have an answer now about it? No, I don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But see, that's what's so wonderful, Sharon. What you do, the way you do it, and you bring it in, and certainly, and Jeff, I don't know exactly what you do, but I can tell you're good at it.
I'm actually a nutritionist, and
Okay.
but I have a lot of experience working with kids in different contexts, and so it's actually what's driven my passion for steering my nutrition practice toward families and children specifically, and that's where I've just been going all in as far as my work in that area and education, and so
That's a huge piece too.
yeah,
That's a huge piece too.
Working with people who struggle with their health now and seeing their nutrition issues and then being able to trace that back to childhood. Just the other day talking to a client about the nanny that she had who used to force her to eat certain amounts of food, and she'd force her to clean her plate, and it's very dictatorial type of a behavior, and it wasn't good food, and there was just this constant pressure. And now she's finding how that carries over into the way that she views and relates to food now, and having to work through those things. And we see that with so many people in our society because of just the way that our culture is set up. And so all of this stuff carries over. Early on when we started talking, I pointed out that health is so multifaceted. So mental health is one aspect, but there's psychological and there's physical and there's social, and all of those different areas of health tie into each other. They feed off each other. If one area is lacking even just a little bit, then the other areas struggle, and it's a snowball effect in many cases. Your physical health struggling with something physical. I see this with my current wife now. She has chronic health issues, and those physical things carry over into social and nutrition and all of the other facets of health too. Yeah, and it's I think that's one of the things that is really good about having mental health brought to the forefront, because I think a lot of people still are in this mindset of just pull yourself up and just kind of move forward. That was the past. Come on, just move forward into the future, and oversimplifying kind of the mental health aspects of it. And I think it's good that it's becoming much more acceptable, I guess. It's definitely not perfect, but it's much more acceptable to have conversations like this and to say to people, you know what, I've struggled with anxiety and depression. And it's kind of cool because I actually see this publicly on Facebook. Someone will share that they're having a particularly difficult day, and they're sharing it with 300 people, and they're willing to open up about the fact that they are struggling with some depression and anxiety. And I think that's good that we're seeing that more and more now than, at least from what I remember as a young adult. It just wasn't talked about as much.
Exactly.
Definitely. We have a program over here called Are You Okay? And it's Are You Okay Day, and then that permeates throughout the year. And the whole program teaches people, there's Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and everything, and it teaches people to ask others, are you okay? And not to leave it there, but what do we say after that? If they say, actually, no, I'm not, what questions could you ask? And the main thing is to be there for them and to listen, and then to say, well, what can I do to help? And to check in with them again, a few days later, whether it's someone in your family or someone in your workplace, is to follow up with that person and to find out if they need some help, and you can make some suggestions. Have you spoken to your doctor? Have you spoken to your boss? Have you spoken to your partner? Just asking questions and just helping, and we don't have to be an expert to do that. We don't have to be a mental health specialist to ask someone, are you okay? And to allow them the space to say, actually, no, I'm not okay. And they had a great, in the street, they had a great, like a billboard, with electronic billboard. And they had people going up to the billboard and asking the robot, "Are you okay?" And the robot would say, "No, I'm not." And then they filmed people who didn't know what to say then. Oh, I'm sorry. And that was it. And then they would stand there and say, "I don't know what to say next." And it just shows that we need to have that conversation.
Yeah.
We need to know, well, what could you say next? You know, what sort of questions could you ask? And just be yourself and be there.
People
for
don't
that
know how to
person.
do that.
No.
You know
Yeah.
what? Because everything starts at home
Yeah.
and where you're at. And look back to, and this, Jeff, ties into your work, because when you were describing it, it took me back to the family table. Here in the
Yeah.
United States, it was even a big campaign for nutrition. Come back to the family table, because that's where you found out how someone's day went.
Mhm.
You're either going to get that in and have that communication start there around the family table, or you're going to wait a few decades later and then you'll still be pouring it out, but it'll be to a bartender somewhere, listening to your woe stories to drink them away. So we think, or whatever route you choose to numb the pain. But just think about it. When in families with a lot of dysfunction, there's not that, let's sit down, it's dinner time at 6 p.m. or it's whatever it is. It's time for, even if it's once a week, Sunday dinner or whatever. That means that people don't sit around a table at dinner time with 6 different people all having 6 different meals. Cheetos over here, a hoagie over here. Like, it's what happens when people don't come to the family table. What'd you get? Oh, I had McDonald's. Oh, I'm just going to eat these leftovers, or I'm just going to eat these chips. And then there's things all over. You see what I'm saying? People are eating things that are as lonely as they are.
Yeah.
That are as empty of nourishment as they are. They are zero calories because there's no nutrition. And then when there's no conversation, there's that's 0 calorie content.
Exactly.
There's nothing coming in. Your soul is going to starve, because communication is food for the soul, just like regular food is food for the body.
Yep. Yeah, it's really interesting with the whole family meal thing that you talked about. There's solid research that points to the benefits of this seemingly minor kind of a thing, but it's just so important that adults and children that have these regular family meals, they actually tend to be slimmer and healthier overall.
Yeah.
So you don't have to explicitly try and manage body weight with dieting and those kinds of things. Sometimes it's just taking these simple, healthy habits and behaviors, like a simple family meal where the family sits down in a stress-free fashion and just enjoys a meal together and shares in conversation. And they find too that children and teens that have these family meals, they actually eat better overall. They feel better about themselves. They actually get along better with other people, and they even do better in school. And they've looked at some of at the impacts of this and found that these family meals have a greater trickle down effect than even things like clubs and church activities and those kinds of things, which is quite remarkable that this one small, yet, I mean, it seems small, but it's just such a powerful component. Yeah.
It is. It's a force. It's a connector. It's an invisible force field that connects. I mean, how many examples do we need as a people that there are things going on that we cannot see with corneas and retinas?
Mm-hmm.
There are things going on. Law of attraction is real. All these things, and I know they are. But yeah. And look at what you just described. They do better here. They do better there. But everything that they got better,
right,
is because you started with something good. If you start with something great, then you only have to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it went out. But where did it start? Right there at home.
Yeah.
Starts where you're at and goes out from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we need. That's us. That's the adults. You got to raise a child while a child is still a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't wait to start caring when your car didn't come home last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, just today, obviously, when we call it tea over here, when you call it like dinner or lunch, whatever you call it over there. Yeah. See, I can't keep up with you three when it comes to your countries.
Right.
Neither can we. Follow the English. We have tea like you, or dinner. Tea or dinner, but the Americans have supper, right?
Depends on the part of the
Other
country. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I don't even know what I call it
Peppers
dinner.
like the
I'm
farm
from,
people.
yeah.
Anyway,
I'm from New Mexico and I live in Texas
Okay.
now. I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but I call it dinner. So
Dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dinner.
And anyway, we were
Yeah,
sat
okay.
down as a family eating the same meal, and
Yeah.
my son, because he eats it so quick, we don't know if that's linked to his autism, we don't know,
Mhm.
but he eats it so quick, and we was explaining to him, because he wanted to shoot back upstairs onto his console. I'm like, no, you can sit here and wait for us. We was explaining, well, one day we actually want to take you to a restaurant go for a meal. And he kept talking, when I'm older, and stuff like that. I'm like, when you're older, you probably want to get a girlfriend or something. I don't know. What are you going to do? Are you going to sit there? You're going to eat your meal in like 10 seconds, and you're going to be waiting for her. It's like that partner will not stay with you. They will not stay with you. So you need to have some respect, patience, enjoy the food. And this is
I
what we
really
explained
like that guy, but he eats too fast.
Yeah, but I think with him, it goes in one ear, out the other.
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
He's missing the experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the first place I would go if I was trying to explain that. I would explain the art of experience.
Yeah.
Because experience creates fond memories. And when one day, I know that vehicle you're in right now is young, and you think you'll never be old. But one day, you know, that vehicle. Well, I'm saying this is us talking to the kid. You know, one day when we all leave here, you know, I believe that our fondest memories, when they say, "Oh, your life flashes before your face," I'll say this kind of thing to kids. Your life is going to pass before your eyes. You want it to be a string, a sizzle reel, if you will, of experience.
Well, this
The
is
time
why.
I climbed the Eiffel Tower.
Well,
The
this is
time
why.
family dinner.
Yeah.
You miss those things when you aren't with them. Sometimes you don't even know what you had until you don't have it.
Mhm.
But then you start drawing that kind of partner into your life so you can recreate that wonderful memory, because that's ground zero.
Yeah.
You took something great and you want to make it greater and give it to someone else.
Exactly.
The reason, as soon as you want to give something to someone else, you are standing firmly within purpose.
Oh yeah.
You can't keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I know. Well,
Good
well,
stuff. Life is good stuff.
it seems Sharon needs to go to school, don't you?
Yes, I'm teaching today, so I can go and put all of this into practice. And I'm going to give all of the kids a hug for you guys.
Oh, dude.
Sounds good.
Brilliant.
Yeah, because this has been a beautiful discussion. I feel so privileged. We often don't say these things, and I'm probably going to tear up here, but to hear all of your stories, and you know, I have a story with a low level of abuse, but certainly something there as well, and a lot of trauma, and yeah, to hear your stories about, you know, your situations and your kids, Adam and Jeff's story, your ex-wife, and Lauren in the system. Like, it's just such a privilege to hear those stories, and then to see what you're doing now to help others. And I think a lot of us that work in this area do so because we have our own stories, and then I think the courage to tell those stories and the vulnerability to share those stories is just so vital. And that's what helps mental health, and that's what we need to teach kids is speak
You're
up.
gonna ring the bell of purpose.
I'm going to answer that. That's the
Thank
law of attraction.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're most welcome. You're
Been
most welcome.
beautiful.
Thank you all. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Sharon.
Great talking.
Yeah. So on that note, we will end this. Tomorrow I've got Rebecca Healy. Jeff knows her very well. I've got her, and we're actually going to be talking about how we self-care can help our not just mental health, but physical health as well. So what we've just been talking about tonight. So I hope I don't repeat myself tomorrow. Who knows? But anyway, I love you all. Please share this, and we will see you again. Bye for now.
Take care.
Bye.